Welcome back to the Awakening Conversations podcast. My name is Kate and I am here with my co-host Amanda. And today we have a very special guest joining us, Vanessa Smith. And we're going to be talking about what a soul is, how connecting with this part of us and doing the healing work can assist our soul group and the Earth's own ascension process. A very loaded topic. It's quite a headline to come in with. But Vanessa is an incredible person to have here to begin to unpack this for us, to teach us more about what the soul is and this bigger purpose that our awakening process has. Vanessa is an energy guide, a seer, a spiritual mentor, messenger, mobilizer, a certified coach, and the founder of New Earth Collab. She has a contagious enthusiasm for the new paradigm perspective and those here to build it. She's dedicated to collaborating and actualizing the visions of what could be. Vanessa has a passion for holistic health and transformational healing, and with 20 plus years in this field, she offers creative approaches to help you align to your purpose work in this paradigm shift. Best of all, she's very funny and walks her talk. Vanessa, welcome to the Awakening Conversations podcast. We're excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm super looking forward to this conversation. And it's just really nice to be with both of you together at the same time for this. So yeah, I'm super excited. Let's go.
Okay, amazing. Yeah, we'll give a little context to how we have come to be here. Amanda and I actually met through your energy guide certification that we both took last year. And this connection has sparked a podcast. And so thank you for offering the program so we could meet and everything that we learned there, which has been part of us creating this podcast. So today then, we're going to begin unpacking a bit more about what the soul is. So as Amanda and I have had our conversations about the awakening process, we have both had the awareness through these experiences that we have a soul, that there is more to us than just our human selves. And so this has been a big part of our growth journeys, is getting to know this part of ourselves and what it means to be a soul, what it means to live from this soul place. So to begin, from your perspective, what do you think the soul is, and why is it important for us to begin to connect with this part of ourselves as we traverse our awakening journeys? What's the importance of all of that?
Yeah. Such a big question, such a good question, and definitely worthwhile to dig into. The first thing I really feel called to say, though, is that we don't have a soul. Our soul has a human.
Mm-hmm.
And so the experience and this idea that the soul is part of us is actually a bit of an inverted, in my opinion, perspective. It really is about being in the energy or this larger framework that we start as this soul, and then from that framework, from that energetic landscape, we move into choosing a human experience and designing that human experience, and to come here to experience, right? Like that is, I want to say that is a very releasing framework for me to consider when we look at all of the massive ups and downs, the massive challenges, the shadow, the dark stuff, the incredible high frequencies, all of the things that we go through in our individual lives and also in the collective. To see it from the vantage point of our soul is having an experience. That is, it's like something that we can kind of just agree on. Like there is, we're trying to see where can we find common ground. And for me, that's the unifying framework, or the unity framework, is that we're all here having an experience, and we get to choose how we navigate that experience, how we perceive it, how we interact with people, all of those those different parts. So that's the first thing I want to say about that. And then the question around the soul, what is it? Like, how do you even answer that? When you brought me this conversation, I thought, um, do I know the answer to that? Okay, great. Let me tune in and come up with that answer. Um, so, I would say that the soul is um, a creative expression of all that is. It's just a unique creative expression of all that is. And so that is a wide enough definition that we can also apply to our own human experience or whatever other form. We're all just taking different forms of God, of divine intelligence, of the cosmic mystery. And so, but there, at the same time, there is, in my energetic understanding, a bit of a hierarchy to it, right? So we have this larger soul that has these multiple experiences as a human in other forms, in other dimensions. We have this massive universal, multi-universal playground that we get to come in and go, okay, cool. Now we're going to do this, and now we're going to do that. And then we register that in our soul record, right? We register the experiences that we've gone through. And some people have the perspective that the soul is here to learn. And I think certainly learning can happen if we choose to look through that perspective, but perhaps maybe it's not. Maybe we just come here for the sensation. Maybe we come here for the connection. Maybe there's a different motivating factor for each soul, but we get the opportunity and we get to use and tap into where the creative life force energy wants to flow. Like, we often talk about God as the creator, and yet we walk around and we go, oh, I'm not very creative. I'm like, your existence is nothing but creativity. What are you even talking about? Like, let's drop that programming along with, whatever other limitation programming you picked up, and really be in this expression of the creator energy. And for me, that is one way to articulate what the soul is and what the soul is doing here, and how we can begin to open up a new kind of conversation with our internal and energetic landscape so we can navigate our human experience in new ways with new perspectives. And I find that very freeing. I know when I was younger, I felt stuck quite a lot, and it was super challenging for me. And there was always this, quite literally, it felt like light, and it also felt like this pulsation, and it also felt like this pull, this inner directive. So even though I had this human experience of feeling like, can I swear? I'm feeling like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, why does I feel so squeezed, so stuck, so can't make a decision, so can't breathe, so like, what is this? There was this larger container that I always felt, and so I kept moving towards that. I was like, what is that? What is that light? Like, why does everything, kind of taking this in another direction, but why does everything in my entire system still when I stand in the light? Why do I feel like I have mycelium or tree roots that are extending down to the core of this gigantic physical landscape I'm on every time I'm in nature? Like, what is that? That is such a different experience than I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. And where's my purpose? Is it underneath the couch cushion? Like, where is it? Because there's this bigger thing that's calling me, and I needed to name it. I needed to follow it. I needed to have some sort of words to wrap around my experience. And so um, that's what's coming through at the moment in terms of your question of what is a soul and what that means to me and what my experience has been.
I'd love for you to speak about purpose because I know that's a lot of what you do. And I feel that in my own journey, there can be, as we like awaken and we start to learn about our soul and our purpose, there's this like sense of, can be a sense of urgency, like, oh, it's really important that I fulfill my purpose. But at the same time, it's like paradox. It's like, how important, like, how necessary is it really to fulfill our purpose? Because we can sometimes get overwhelmed or get trapped in this need to fulfill a purpose. So it's like a dance, a balance, a paradox of um, aligning with a purpose that we might feel, but then at the same time releasing all of the programming that tells us we have to like strive and achieve success, and that can get entangled with it. And do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, loads of thoughts about that, especially coming from the vantage point of always feeling like I had a purpose and feeling really driven to figure out what that was and wanting to shake my fist at the heavens for like not having, not knowing specifically like where's the manual, what is it, what do I do, because I feel it there. um, and for me, it's part of the awakening journey, actually, to feel a sense of purpose, of deeper call towards a life of alignment, of feeling like you're doing something towards the collective, of doing something that feels like there's a, and things are clicking into place in your life. There's like I want to say like an awakening journey, even in the pursuit of purpose, right? Like we initially start off thinking it's a job, or it's, my business, or it's like it needs to be expressed in a certain way. And I think for some people that's accurate, right? There is something specific that they are here to do. I know for me, that's what it feels like for me. From an astrological perspective, which I am a beginner at exploring, but I have learned, like in my specific chart, I have what's a configuration that's called a yod, and it's known as a specific mission from God. It's known as God's finger, and God's finger says you are doing this. And so for me, I think that's part of what's always been my inner drive around purpose is because in my chart there is something very specific for me to be bringing forward to this world. And so whenever I need to course correct, or I get in my ego, or I start spinning around, if somebody tells me, or I hear an inner voice that says you're not honoring your contract with God, that stops me in my tracks. And I go, okay, course correct. Like I have no pushback for that, because for me that trumps everything. Um, but there are many people that just are moving towards a sense of purpose, like a felt, experiential, cellular, energetic sense of purpose that permeates everything that they're doing. And that's really an energy of presence, right? It's the energy of really feeling filled in the moment by how you're connecting with whatever or whoever is in front of you. And so I think there's just a distinction between the purposeful life where you're living with a sense of like purpose and grace and presence, and the purpose, the specific purpose that you are here to do. I do know, from like a Gene Keys human design astrology perspective, which I love to refer to those three frameworks, is, they have it mapped out. And I do, even before I got into those methodologies and learning about them, I have no affiliation. I just find it interesting, that from a psychic or seer perspective, when I look at someone I can see what they have mapped out for their purpose. And that was, before the iteration of my current expression of work, I primarily did one-off or one-to-one sessions with people, and I would look at their purpose. They're like, what am I here to do? And when they would ask, they would also show me the answers. And so I just happen to have this cool gift where I can see energy. And so when I look at people, I see them at the highest expression of them. I see what they're doing. I see who they're connecting with. And so when they're sitting there telling me like what the issue is, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you're amazing. Like, do you not see yourself? Because I see this high frequency potential purpose filled expression of them, and the details and the underlying dynamics of what's been standing in their way around moving that path forward. So I don't know if that answered your question, but those are the thoughts that pop in around purpose for me.
I just want to say that your ability to see someone's purpose and, hold that as a mirror was so important for my own awakening journey and my own evolution and changing my whole life direction. And so I can attest that having that vision opened to you can really allow us to step into that potential, into our purpose. And so, I feel like you came into my life at a very particular time, right after my mom, well, you were in my presence and awareness before my mom passed away, but really after my mom passed away, it's kind of like you were there. And it opened me up to concepts that I had I didn't even what? I'm going to go see a psychic. That was something that was so not in my reality at the time. And so as far as soul family is concerned, I look back in retrospect and it was like you came in at that particular moment because I needed that. And so we are all souls, right? But we're all there. We have connections to other souls, and we're not doing this experience alone. And I think for me, that's a really empowering and comforting thing to know, because a lot of us can feel alone in our human existences, and to know that there are forces outside of us that are coming in to support us in the times that we really need it. And it can come in as other human beings, and it can come in other ways as well. But that you were that for me. And so I know you have a lot of ideas about the soul family and how we are here to impact and influence each other. Do you mind diving into that topic and whatever wants to come to you from that question?
Yeah. It's a great question. And and I do. I am very, what do I want to say here? Well, I want to say first that I'm very honored that we upheld our agreement to each other to show up in each other's lives at the timing that it did. It was very catalytic for both of us. So I appreciate that you bringing that to the show. And so that's all I'm going to say, because then I will start crying, because that is sometimes what we do with soul families. So the concept of the soul family, let me just pull in all the emotions that want to it's so funny because we walk around with all our little limitation programs, and especially the one of isolation, and we're going through it all alone. And there's this inner drive of, where's my people? Where are the people that get me? The people I feel safe and comfortable to be myself and to be vulnerable with. And I think there's this it's an innate I want to call it a concept, but really it's just a reality that we come in as teams. We come in as family, and we incarnate at a certain period of time for particular reasons. And our soul family mirrors elements of our own path that we go through. And so part of the reason that we connect with them as we do over the period of our lives is because it is catalytic. It creates, it activates us, it triggers healing to occur. It allows for integration and wholeness to take place in our system from wherever we were fragmented before. It becomes like well, I guess it's again an activator to elevate us onto our path in a new way. And I'm just honestly blown away recently, again, just to give a nod to the Gene Keys, I will have an immediate knowing, and I did with both Kate and Amanda, that they are part of my soul family infrastructure. And you know, with Kate, I just I knew she needed to be in the program, and we didn't really have too much of a connection besides so every so often being on chatting on social media, but really not that much. And it's I want to say a humbling, kind of uncomfortable, different way to engage with other people when you're doing it intuitively and energetically versus, there's this standard that we have that's like, this is how you make new friends. This is how you find clients. This is how you get a job. And it's like, we're moving into an era, we've already been there for some of us that are more energetically sensitive, more intuitively aware, but we are as a collective really moving into an era where the draw to connect with our soul family is going to get louder, stronger, something that we really can't ignore. And the way that we discern who those people are and what the nature or dynamic of that relationship is about is going to come to us through our intuition, through our ability to unpack the energy around it. And then it's up to us, is do we have the cojones to follow it, right? Do we actually, can we do that? And I had to set my ego aside with Kate, especially because I was like, hey, you're supposed to be in my program. I'm not trying to be super salesy here, but I don't know, you have to join. And how do you tell somebody that? You're going to need to pay me and be in this program. I know we've never really talked, but so, and I've done that with, I actually, a good handful of my clients, I see them immediately, and I know I did that with Amanda. I was like, I'm sorry, but you need to work with me. Yeah, I did. And it's awkward, right? As a business owner, I'm just like, what am I what is this sales technique? What is,
I think mine thought it was I'm like, this MLM, where it's like, let me drop into your DMs. And then you kept on, and I'm like, oh no, okay, I'll try it. And then of course it was amazing and life transforming and necessary.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, but that's what, I think that's part of the awakening journey. What it calls us into humility. It calls us into setting aside our ego. It calls us into dropping these programs that we have around how we're supposed to act and talk and connect with people, and to trust that you're being guided to somebody else for a reason, and that your job is really to tune into what might that be, and are you willing to check it out. And I learned the very hard way multiple times over what happens when I didn't do that, and which is very much the source of many trauma stories that I won't get into here. But if I could impress anything upon anybody, it would be like, please follow your intuition, as uncomfortable as it might be, and learn how to distinguish intuition from fear, learn how to read energy, learn how to use energy to heal yourself, learn how to connect with people energetically, and your world will transform in a really rich way. It's like, it's the thing that we're all after, everybody's like chasing money or love and connection. It's just like, y'all, just tune into the intuition and you'll get there. Like, that's really it's the bridge that gets us there. So I have loads more thoughts to say on soul families, but I also, I don't want to like take the stage, because I know this is a conversation, and would love to hear whatever else you two want to say or share.
Yeah, I'll say, being on the receiving end of you reaching out, I can remember though that I had, I knew about the program, and I kept coming back to the website, and I kept coming back to the website. And I'm like, why does this kind of like keep coming in? Because sometimes I'd read it and I was like, oh, in my indecisive head of like, yes, oh, maybe no, like, can I afford it? Blah, 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 time in my life, which was a challenge. And at one point I just got to this place. I was like, if I'm meant to be in this, like, give me the sign. And it was like 2 days later, you messaged me and you said, you know what? I can do this payment plan for you if you want to join. And I was like, I got my sign. So let's do this, Vanessa Smith.
Yeah,
let's see how this goes. And honestly, thank you, because as much like Amanda said, it's been life-changing for me to, this program, and I've signed up to do it again this year, because for me that really was another type of awakening for me. We spoke about this in my journey, as Amanda's had many, significant moments in her life of awakening. Mine was such a, big first go that, anything that's come after that has been a little bit more subtle. But I would say that through that program, it was an expansion that I got to experience inside there that kind of, was another rebirth and another awakening to so much more of what's going on. And one of the things that really stood out for me was this idea of us having a soul family, and the power that we have within that soul group. That, the big piece of that is, our awakening journeys are very much about us doing the healing work, that healing work being the repair work of what the human experience kind of puts us through, to come back to that expression of the soul, to come back to that place of, the love that soul and the source of who we are is, to be able to emanate that, to hold that as a vibration and a frequency. And whatever we choose to do with that as a vocation, amazing. Some of them, like yourself, have a specific one, but otherwise just being that in the world. But the thing that really stood out for me when we learned about that too was how, for me personally, to dedicate myself to my own healing work, that has an effect and an activation for other people or other members of my soul group, and that as an accumulated benefit has an even greater effect on the earth as well. So would you be able to begin to sort of tell us some more about how that works in terms of the healing work we're doing affecting others in our soul group, and what that looks like and feels like, and how we know it might be, how our own stuff being activated could be another person in our soul group sort of doing their work, but then that larger context of how important that really is to show up for, for the Earth's own ascension process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me start off with a visual for everyone, because it's a big question, right? And so I want to help draw the picture of it. So many years ago, I was a camp counselor, and in one of the events that we had, there was about 20 of us, and we took a ball of yarn, and each person took one part of the yarn, and then if they had the ball, they would throw it to somebody else at random. That person would grab part of the yarn, and then they'd throw the ball to somebody else. And then when everybody had at least one piece of that yarn, we stopped throwing, and then we just had a moment of silence and looked at this web, this really intricate web that was created from this ball of yarn of us each holding this different part of the total string, right? And then we were, after we took that in, because it has a particular configuration, right? When we're standing in that location, when we're holding that particular part of the yarn. And then what we had to do is drop it, but one by one and in no particular order. And we had to pause every time somebody dropped it to observe how the web changed. And so that what that was symbolizing is that every time you shift in any kind of way, because even if you didn't drop it, but say you held a different part of the yarn, that's going to change the entire configuration. And so when you as a soul family, you're connected energetically, you're connected by kind of like a golden thread of light is the best way that I can describe it, because some people call it cords, and I'm like, that's a little unattractive feeling to me. I don't know, that feels kind of more heavy. It's a little more like a golden thread of light. And so we're connected to our soul family via that, and that creates the web. That creates part of the web. And so when we shift and change, it quite literally changes the whole configuration of that web. And so we'll feel the tug on our system. We'll feel something just shifted. And then, oh, that's funny. I thought about going to do this right now. And actually now seems like a really good time to go take care of this thing that I've avoided for the past 6 months. Or, we'll have something drop in for us. And for most, well, I don't want to say for most humans, but for humans that perhaps aren't as in tune with intuition or energy, they would just think, oh, I had an idea and maybe I'll do it or maybe I won't. But for those of us that are having a heightened intuitive and energetic experience of life, they'll be like, aha, okay, something in my soul family's grid just shifted. What did that bring up? I felt that in my system, like there, because you can distinguish. The more you practice with intuition and energy, the more you can distinguish what's yours, what's mine, and you can feel that shift in your system, and you're like, okay, that did not feel like mine, but that does feel like something that mirrors my experience and that I need to tend to. And so that's one of the ways that we can think about how the healing journey and the awakening journey that we go through absolutely impacts the soul family experience. I'll get to the earth ascension question in just a minute. I just want to give one other example. Recently, this was actually so cool to me. There's a client that I have. She's been in my life since 2010. She's been a client, might even be a bit longer. And recently, she's one of those kinds where you're kind of like, I love you. I don't know why I love you so much, because it doesn't look like on the surface we have that much in common, but I feel this big, like, strong connection to you. And yet I kind of have a feeling we have more in common than I realized. It's that kind of vibe. I looked at her gene chart or gene keys the other day, and in the gene keys, there's 11 total. If anybody is familiar with the gene keys chart, there's 11 total numbers, and some of those numbers double over for different purposes, but there's 11 total, and we had 5 in common. And so it was such a visual reflection of us being soul family to confirm my own intuitive feeling, and the way that I want to connect that back to the web that's changing and how we do our work changes those in our soul family is as I was able to consciously identify the commonalities via this framework and talk about them, the specific gene keys, in new ways, both of us, especially the ones that we had in common, both of us left that conversation with an elevated frequency, with an expanded consciousness, with like everything that I came through for her. I was like, "Ooh, okay, let me check that for myself. Like, let me just, like it all applied to me as well." And so this is another way that once we do get connected with our soul families, and we have those conscious conversations, and we realize that what comes through us is actually meant for both them and for us in different ways. And so it just becomes this, you know, accelerated experience of integration and wholeness and connection and closeness, and like it's a different kind of intimacy. It's just a different kind of, like, we have this sort of cliche saying of like we're soul mirrors to each other, or we're just reflecting each other. And it's like when you have those tangible moments where you're like, that is literally what's happening right now. It's it's very heart opening. It's very grounding, and it's very, I don't have a word for it. There should be a new word. Maybe we should make a new word, but a word of like, how cool is that to be alive and just connect with somebody? Like, I have a very long phrase for this new word, but if anyone in the audience listening like comes up with a word for that sensation where, like, wow, we're having this experience together as souls on earth, and we're marrying each other, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I can't think of a word for that, but I think there should be one.
Yeah. What you're talking about, the gene keys and our charts. And in this past year, I've gone deeper with the gene keys, gone deeper with astrology. And I've also been looking at my family's charts in conjunction with learning about my own. And it's been so healing to recognize that how our charts are connected, how they are here and I am here. We're all here to be part of our journeys to evolve and to have this experience. And it's in the past year, my relationship with my daughter has changed and healed and transformed through recognizing the things that I have struggled with the most about her are actually the things that I've come here to learn and to heal, right? Like, she's Cancer, and she's watery and emotion, and my intellect is like, come on, like, snap out of it. Like, why are you so emotional? And really, like, recognizing that that's what I am here to grow into has it's magical when I think about it, that just this knowing and this greater acceptance, and really recognizing that as you said, how cool is it that unknowingly we came together, or my husband and I, because that's as happened with his chart as well. He has Cancer in his chart, his moon and his rising are Cancer, and that's specifically where my growth is. And it's like, wow, he came in, and what's been a struggle has been my greatest teacher. Same with my daughter, and same with the gene keys, looking at like where we have all these spheres overlapping. And I think we've done that too, Vanessa, where it's like we have similar genius sequence spheres as well, you and me, and also my husband and your husband too, I think. So yeah, and it's that knowing, it just feels so magical that this all happened without us consciously being aware of it, right? Like, we are being guided by something beyond us, beyond our conscious knowing. And for me, and that's been a part of my own awakening journey, is like recognizing like how much my mind has stopped me from, I guess it hasn't stopped me, because it has brought me in connection with these people. But once the mind gets out of the way, like those connections come in much faster and with more ease, and there's less doubt of like, why. It just happens with much more flow and ease. And so that leads me to, you were talking about intuition, and I will share that for me, I did not believe I was intuitive at all. Like my programming had allowed me to just dismiss the intuition that I was always having, but to me that I didn't have that framework to acknowledge and accept the intuition that was there. And it took me, I feel like it took me time to just like, and it was through your reflection, a lot of it was to even consider that I'm an intuitive person. And that was like, I guess 6-ish years ago. I'm curious, do you think as this ascension process is happening, do you think that people are awakening to their intuition faster than in the past? And what do you think do you have any ideas in terms of like what people can do, or in terms of supporting that process?
Yeah. Yeah, great question. In short, yes, it is happening faster, and it's happening. I want to say I was never. I think it's a Monty Python. I never actually watched any Monty Python, but there's this one scene. I feel like I saw it on a meme or something where the person's walking and it's like some sort of thing pops out of the ground and hits them, and then they move into a different direction. Something pops out and hits them in the face again, and they're kind of like trying to figure out where to go. To me, when I look at the collective landscape energetically, that's how it looks in like intuition is going to start hitting people. Like it's going to be like, are you paying attention? It's going to be very obvious. Whereas I feel like, at least in my generation, I felt like the anomaly that was tuned in from that intuitive perspective, and people around me, my age or older or even younger, were just like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Or like the intuition was more subtle, softer, a little harder to discern, very intertwined with fear. Like we really had to parse it out and go, like, how do I know the difference? That was one of, I would say, when I first started working more professionally intuitively, but I've been having intuitive conversations really all my life. And the main question was like, how do you discern between intuition and fear? And because everything felt very muddled with both. And now neither feel muddled. It is very clear when we're in fear, and it is very clear when we're getting an intuitive hit, download, sensation. Like we know it instantly. And so our energy filters, our energy sensing system is changing in such a way that it's much more refined, it's much more obvious, it's much more in your face. And the whole analogy of being smacked in the face with intuitive hits, it's like, it's not just going to happen more quickly, it's going to be harder. Like you're gonna, if you get hit once and you're like, or whatever, and you keep you're like, I'll walk around it. When it comes up again, it's going to be harder. Like, boom, really. So just, I don't know, pay attention. Really start keeping track. Like, this is the coach in me is a list maker. And I'm like, make a list, man. Like, go through your day, write down what intuitive insights dropped in. How do you know they were intuitive instead of fear? Like, how did they feel different in your body? What was the tone of voice that you heard if you happen to hear the intuitive directive? So just noticing like how you intuit, how that is different for you than, say, having a fear thought. So noticing the distinction in that, and then like track it, and you'll start to realize, oh, wow, I'm getting intuitive hits like all day, every day. And what would it be like if I started to intentionally work with this energy, intentionally live my life by that. Oh, wow, maybe I'll feel less stuck. Oh, wow, maybe I'll feel more aligned. Oh, wow, maybe there's lots of other opportunities that I actually didn't even see before just because I wasn't looking in that direction. And so it really does reorient you to life, to like totally. It's like you see other people differently, you see life differently. You're like, well, what's going on here? And so it's part of the awakening journey. It really is, to learn how to lead your life via intuition.
And I'll say too that working with the Akashic Records and having people come in for a reading, often asking about their soul purpose or looking for direction in their life, and I don't really try to get much of a story from them to start. I just want to understand their question and what they're really wanting to understand. And it's so interesting to me how many times, so much of what I can receive for them is a confirmation of intuition they already have. So, to what you're saying, so many people are getting that intuitive information. It's just that the mind is overriding it, or we just don't want to listen, or we second guess it and we doubt it. And, Amanda, even the starting of this podcast was trusting that intuition to not let the brain get in the way and like, don't follow it. And it's funny that when she said that to me, that, following it was the directive. She was like, I'm going to just act on this. So many times now I hear an intuitive thought in my voice and I think of Amanda, and I'm like, no, just act on it. Just act on it. So, her acting on that then has sparked me. Her voice is in my head all the time of like, it's here, act on it now. Like, follow that. And, Amanda has spoken to this in a few episodes, that the more we really lean into that and trust that, it's the trust that we can then see how we're being guided through life. Like, the information is there. And I often feel like our intuitive information is almost like this, offering of, here's your next step, like take step here and then step here and then step here. And that's really all we need to do, is be present, tune into the energy, tune into our intuition to see what is here now. And that may be, a direction to go, something within ourselves to look at, to clear and heal, to reach out to someone, whatever it is. But like, it's there. All the information we need about where to go, what to do, how to be, it's in us, coming through us. It's just that, as you said, like becoming more aware and discerning and attuning to what that is. And it's, coming back into ourselves is sort of a way I like to describe it. It's that presence and slowing down and centering that really makes that so much more easy to access.
As far as where we are right now on this in time and space, and we, to me, it feels like where we are is we're relearning where to look for answers, right? Our programming tells us to look outside of ourselves, to not trust that internal guidance. And that's like ingrained into us through every aspect of our societies. We're taught to look to authority, and really what we're being asked to do right now is to cultivate that internal guidance system, and working with that and learning to create a relationship with it. And for me, it's felt like, as I started to go beyond, I had an experience, and then like it showed me what was possible, and that allowed me then to give more weight to what I was feeling or what I was receiving. And the more I had those experiences where I listened to that, and then it worked out, then that gave, when I had that feeling in the future, it was a lot easier to say yes to it, because following that crazy idea had a really cool outcome that my mind would not have come up with. Like, if my mind, like for instance, this podcast, like if my mind would have planned out how this podcast was going to turn out, it wouldn't have happened, right? It would have like, oh, that's too big. That's too much. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, all the reasons why not to would have stepped in. But it was literally responding to something Kate, it was like a story. She responded to a story. And then I said, this thought came in and I shared it. And then after I shared it, I'm like, that's weird that like, I bet she thinks I'm weird for my mind stepped in and said, she probably thinks I'm so weird for like proposing this to her. And then, but then, it was the opposite. It was the idea that she had a week prior, and it was the confirmation for her intuition from the week prior. And then it's like the breadcrumbs. It's like, just take the next step. And I feel that a lot of times when I am feeling stuck or I'm feeling lost, it's really coming back, like clearing the noise, clearing the clutter, and coming back to what feels, what do I feel wants to be seen or heard in the moment, and just taking that next step usually takes me out of whatever stuck, lost place that I'm feeling in, and it just puts me on a new path, on a new direction. And to me, that's like the coolest thing about our intuition. It's like we have everything that we need right here. And another thing I want to say is that because we are beginning to be able to access our intuition on an easier level than previously, more people are starting to acknowledge it. More people are starting to live from this intuitive place versus from this mind place. And I think just even 5-6 years ago for me, it was like I don't know anyone that's living this way, and therefore I have no framework to make sense of it. But now there's so many resources, there's so many people talking about it. Like once you start start dip your toes into it, I think that allows it to open up so much more quickly, in that it's this collective opening that's happening because more of us are. And so the more internal work we do, so me doing my internal work, me listening to my intuition, now that's triggering Kate to that's changed how you're doing it, and how you're doing it is affecting somebody else. And it's like this, like it's that string you spoke about, Vanessa, how it's like we each play a pivotal role, and we don't actually know how what we're doing, the healing we're doing, the personal growth that we're doing, how that is making a difference just in and of itself by doing by listening to our intuition, by starting to listen to acknowledge our soul, and then changing how we do things. I don't have a question there, but I'm done.
Well, amazing. So we're getting nearly close to the end of time. So we may save that last part of our conversation for a whole other episode, because Vanessa, I think we could probably do a whole conversation on that and see where it goes. I don't think that's a 5-minute conversation. So to wrap up here, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us. I think this has been a really beautiful conversation about the soul, and the intuition is really that is our soul speaking to us. That's what's coming through for us. And circling back to even when we started talking about purpose, I feel as well for myself that is how I'm understanding my purpose as well. Is my intuition is saying, take this program, or at least find out, like ask if you're meant to be in it and get a sign. And, like having that interaction with life as well, that, if it's playing with it like that as well, to get the confirmation you need, like asking for the intuitive, hits or the signs as well, and putting that out there to receive that answer back. And it can really help you understand and move forward on a purpose if that's something that's driving you forward. So again, it's the importance of really tuning into your intuition and getting that greater access, because for those of us that have got something that we're here to do, we're being guided in all the avenues to help us actualize that, because our soul has come here for those experiences. So anything else you'd like to share on that, or anything else that you'd like to say on what we've discussed so far before we get you to sort of share about the work that you're doing in the world and what you currently have on offer for people?
The only thing that's coming through for me at this moment is a thank you and an acknowledgement for the two of you for following your own intuition and coming together and creating this podcast. And like, it's, we are sitting in the reality that was once an idea, that was once a little intuitive hit that dropped in, a soft voice, a vision. Like, you each had that in your own unique way, and you chose to follow it. And now we are sitting in the reality of it. And I feel like it's important to acknowledge that. That's what I want to say. Like, for anyone tuning in, it might not be that long before they're sitting in their actualized vision that came through from an intuitive hit. So good job, you two. I don't know. I'm happy and proud to be part of this conversation.
Well, you are,
amazing.
I just want to acknowledge you, because your own personal work, your own intuition has obviously, as we've discussed, influenced both of us in big ways. So it's so cool to see how each of us doing what we are called to do. It's not just for us, it's for others as well. So thank you.
Yeah. Also, Vanessa, we've benefited from your work. Would you like to share with us what ways people can begin to work with you, and what currently your programs are? I know the Energy Guide certification is coming up this year. What would you like to share with our listeners?
Yes, well, specifically that, the Energy Guide program, which is really for those that are wanting to lean into and expand their intuitive gifts, to for those that are energetically sensitive and want to know how to better navigate energy individually, collectively. It's really a program that's designed to prepare you for the changes that are happening. The changes that are happening collectively. Whether you feel that expansion in your intuition or your energy sensitivity already or not, you will. And so I really wanted to create something, a container, an educational container, an energetic guidance container, an intuitive development container that can support people to really align with their intuition and to develop their innate energy gifts, their innate energy sensitivity, because it is, if it's not online for you now, it will be very soon. And so there's much more I could say about it, but that's essentially, that starts in May of this year. And yeah, if you go to my website, it's vasmith.com energy/energy-guide. You can find it, and there is a personal track, which I call the empath track, which is a little bit more for your personal development. But there's also a certification track. So for those of you, like I know Kate, you are using the certification to give energy guidance sessions. So for those that want to add to their existing healing or transformation business, or you want to start your own as a certified energy guide, there is that option. And there's more foundational support provided for how to actually do that. So in addition to the pretty extensive curriculum, there's business frameworks, messenger mastery tools, but all from that energetic, intuitive perspective to really help you reach who you're here to reach. And yeah, there's always loads of other, pieces on my website, but that is my main focus. It's a big part of my mission. It's a love letter to the younger version of myself that was in WTF mode for a while, for years, for decades, trying to work with energy and intuition. And yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And just for those listening, the link will be in the show notes on the website. So anything, her social media and all her information will be there as well. And I just want to say that you don't know who of your soul family is going to be in that program in terms of where your life is going to take. So this podcast is a testament to what's possible when you follow through on that intuition to say yes if it feels resonant for you.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Well, Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the Awakening Conversations podcast. I'm sure that this is not the last time we'll have you here. We look forward to chatting with you again soon. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.